With Adobe announcing the end of life of Adobe Animate, many people are looking for a decent alternative. Cavalry is one of the possible alternatives to Animate, and it recently became even more interesting when the app was acquired by Canva and is now completely free. So in this video, I'll give a short overview of what Cavalry can and cannot do, and how this applies to your workflow when you're coming from Adobe Animate. Drawing shapes is pretty similar to Adobe Animate. One difference is that shapes are always primitives, so you can always click them and go and change some of the values here. But you can make them editable, and now you can access the individual points as well. Apart from the shapes, you have a few custom drawing tools, such as the pen tool and the pencil tool. The pencil comes with a nice stabilizer that you can enable to draw smoother curves. You don't have any brush tools, so if you're doing a lot of custom drawing and a lot of brush work, then Cavalry is probably not going to be the tool for you. But if you're doing more vector-based work, then you'll quickly find that you'll be able to do similar things in Cavalry as in Adobe Animate. Cavalry is built for both keyframe animation and procedural animation. Keyframe animation by default is comparable to the motion tween in Adobe Animate. So when I keyframe something and give it a different position or drag it around over here, I now get a linear motion. And I can add easing by going right mouse and choosing one of the magic easing options, for example, a slow in, slow out, or a spring in. And we can also remove this and go to the graph editor. And if you've worked with the graph editor in Adobe Animate, it's really quite horrible. And this is much better, so we have easy access to our handles. There's enough space, not upside down, so all of this is a big improvement. If you're looking to do more frame-by-frame animation, there are a few options here. You can limit layers to a shorter length, so you can change the layer length and move it around. You can also use the cell animation shape to create individual drawings per frame. But this is a bit more limited compared to what Adobe Animate can do. So it really depends what you want to do. If you want to do a lot of individual drawings, Cavalry is not going to be great for you. If you do a lot of keyframe animation, then this is a clear step up from Adobe Animate. Cavalry's interface is pretty self-explanatory. One thing you might be looking for are the render settings, so the resolution and the frame rate. That's part of your project settings. Another thing that might be a little bit confusing is the fact that you can have multiple attribute managers. For example, if I draw two rectangles, I now have two separate attribute managers for each rectangle. This behavior can be useful, but if you don't like it and you're used to different applications, you can simply turn on live mode. And now whenever you draw something or click on a layer, it automatically jumps to the settings of that layer. Adobe Animate is designed around symbols. Symbols play a very important role in your workflow. Cavalry can do something similar. If you have multiple drawings and you want to turn them into a symbol, you just select the layers and then go to composition and then pre-compose based on selection bounds. And this is similar to a symbol, so you can still make changes inside the symbol. So let's just go and change the color here and then go to my main composition and see the change there and move this around. So this gives you a way to keep your workflow. Cavalry also has the ability to group objects, so sometimes it's easier to just group the selected and work with the group. There are many other notable differences. The rigging tools, for example, I prefer the IK and FK systems of Cavalry, but the Asset Warp tool in Adobe Animate is a little bit more intuitive. When it comes to exporting to web, Animate has the HTML5 canvas system. Cavalry supports Lottie files. And I'm sure there are many other features that I've missed that people might really depend on that are absent or somewhat less accessible in Cavalry. This is always going to be the case when you switch applications. You do get a lot in return. For example, text animation is something that's difficult in Animate. That's extremely easy in Cavalry. You have more filters, you have deformers, you can work with particles, dynamics. There's motion blur support. In general, I would say that if you're doing a lot of individual drawing, frame per frame animation, then Cavalry is not going to be your best option. But if you're doing vector drawings and keyframe animation, then it's a very interesting option to check out. If you want to learn more about Cavalry, I've got a few tutorials on this channel. I will be posting more in the coming weeks and months, so stay tuned.